Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, are the beat writers Patrick Lyons and Makayla Perkins. And on this episode, we got to recap a very quality win for the Colorado Rockies on the road. How about that? Their third road win of the season in Game 1. We'll preview the rest of the series a little bit, but we do need to start with the big news of the day. Your dude and mine, everyone's dude. Whose team did he actually end up on? I can't remember now. Whatever. Kyle Freeland, back in the bigs, making his season debut after beginning the year on the IL, facing off against another pitcher who I guess there might be some kerfuffle about whether or not he's on his way back to. I don't know. How are we feeling?
It's an exciting game tonight. I saw a lot of people in our Discord talking about the game, and it wasn't quite a playoff atmosphere. Again, we know that's going to be hard to come by, but it is New York. It was a game that was great by well pitched by Austin Gomber, and we'll get into that. And ultimately, that's probably the biggest question for Mets fans right now: who the hell is Austin Gomber? Heard a lot of that last night, but with the steam that the Rockies picked up last night, and they picked it up over the weekend too. Now with their fourth straight victory. Yeah, there's a lot of juice going into this game tonight. More people focused on Jacob deGrom than anything, but Kyle Freeland coming back. And frankly, I wasn't convinced that he was going to be back any earlier than maybe late August, September. Seeing him hold that left arm there back in spring training in March, it just seemed like, oh no, this is never good. These are never a couple month turnaround type situation. To see him back on the mound in New York, he's got to be loving that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for K-Free. He's not only a really great pitcher, but a great person. So it's great just to have him back on the roster. I know he provides a lot of levity in the locker room, the clubhouse. So having him back is super important for the team. He looked really great in in the rehab games that he was at. He only pitched 2 games for the Isotopes, but he put up a 1.80 ERA, and he pitched 4 innings in his first, and then 6 in his second, and he just looks really he looks solid. So I think he's going to provide a much needed boost to this team. They've been struggling on the road, like Drew mentioned at the first part of this podcast. They've only won 3 games so far on the road. So I think it's a great time for him to debut, and I think he's going to just be that little energizer that this team needs to kind of revive some of the ways that they've been kind of stuck in. They seem to be a little bit of a road rut. So it's really great that K-Free is going to come back and hopefully do what he did and show us that he's back to his old ways.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you're right, Makayla. It's a huge addition to the team in a lot of different ways. There is an irony into the fact that it's to the part of the team that's been performing the best, that already was doing well, that oddly enough leaves probably Chichi Gonzalez as an odd man out, despite the fact that he's been pitching incredibly well this season. And so it's not so much that oh man, the starting pitching really needs the addition of Kyle Freeland, so much as it is the Colorado Rockies baseball club really needs the addition of Kyle Freeland, of this guy who is their guy, who is your guy. He really, I'm joking earlier, he's everyone's dude out there. And so it's the only thing that makes this not quite perfect is that it's happening in New York and not in Denver, just because he's obviously from here. I don't know if you guys heard. But against deGrom, who's also returning all the added juice in the game, all the energy that's going to be there in the crowd. And we know Freeland feeds on these moments. He made his major league debut at home against the Dodgers on opening day. He went into Chicago and beat the winningest pitcher in MLB postseason history in John Lester. So I'm very interested to see what kind of Kyle Freeland we get, if he's really amped up, if he's just the right amount of amped up, because that energy, as much as anything else that he does on the mound, could be, I think, what this team desperately needs to finally, if not win a road series, not lose a road series.
Yeah, I think fans will be happy for when he comes back to Coors Field. It might not be until June 5th, coming up in that Oakland series, because he might make a start this weekend in Pittsburgh. But I like the fact that, Rockies fans maybe have to wait a little bit in anticipation. And they don't get Freeland back just yet. And again, there is this national story now where, again, hey, deGrom's there and people are keeping an eye on Freeland. Whereas, maybe if it was at home, even if it was against these Mets, it's a story to us in Colorado and maybe not to others, when it should be a story to those outside of our market. And I think it is now, and I think people will be paying attention, and especially after what Austin Gomber did last night, a lefty starter on the mound, kind of surprising people. Maybe Kyle Freeland says, all right, you know what, this seems to be working out pretty well for Germán Marquez and Antonio Senzatella. If you were around watching the post-game show on Sunday, for that 3-game sweep of the D-backs by the Rocks, we talked about how those two guys play off each other. Anything you can do, I can do better. Well, now it's going to be Gomber and Kyle Freeland. And so Gomber was pretty darn good. Let's see if Kyle Freeland can be that much better.
Imagine if he is. That is going to be so great for this team, because, pitching wins ball games, right? And they need to win some more ball games. So, if you can add Kyle Freeland into the mix, your 1 through 5 is, it's looking amazing already. Like Drew said, Chi-Chi's done as well as you can ask for someone who wasn't even going to start the season on the roster as a starting pitcher. So, if they can get Kyle Freeland and get the Kyle Freeland of 2018. Imagine what that's going to do for this team, because their rotation is already pretty solid. So then you add, a lefty also too, by the way, which I think is a big piece here, because right now Gombe's the only one. I think that's just going to provide so much to this team, and I don't think we know the full effects of it quite yet, just because, obviously this is his first game back. But if he can get back to what he was in 2018, wow, the Rockies. I think you have to start looking at a bunch of different scenarios in that case, because you have a 1 through 5 rotation that's really, really solid. So it's exciting. This is an exciting time for Rockies fans.
Believe it or not, it actually is. It'll also be interesting to see how Chichi Gonzalez plays out of the bullpen. I think that'll be one of the biggest pieces of this as well, because that's where actually the Rockies could start to make things a little bit interesting and go on a run somehow if they could stabilize, because we've seen it. Their starting pitching's been great. It's just, there's not much you can do with that. But I also wanted to point out, Will, you were one step ahead of me. The possibility the Rockies win this game 1-0 and Kyle Freeland has a great outing, if for no other reason than because Jacob deGrom never gets any run support, and that's just how Jacob deGrom games go. And so you've got that part of it playing for you as well. So just go out there, do your thing, throw the ball over the plate, hit your spots, and we could be in for a really fun ball game. We're going to see the Rockies strike out a lot tonight. So, everybody does. Everybody does. But you hope Free's got some nice stuff. Could it turn into one of those no one scored yet going into the 7th inning games? Could be fun.
Yeah, deGrom in his 6 games that he started the season, one of which was against the Rockies, who, put up a fight against him. That's another element to this too, is the Rockies have seen deGrom already once, and in Colorado, and that's an advantage to the Rockies hitters. It's not a lot of advantage because the pitcher is still Jacob deGrom, but he's got 65 strikeouts in his 6 games, and he's the first pitcher to ever do that, to have 65 in 6 games, and also keep his ERA that far below 1. It's at 0.68.
Goodness,
that's
gracious.
His ERA. So he's doing some otherworldly things, and again, I think that helps Freeland. I think that helps. They're on a 4-game win streak, and I don't think Freeland. He's the first one back, and immediately he has this fun type of pressure on him to say, "Hey, we all did our job for the most part, right? We won our last 4 games. How about you, bud? Let's see if you can keep it going."
Totally. So let us, by the way, then move to that. We're going to get back to tonight's game a little bit later, actually. So we'll have more time to talk about Freeland and deGrom a little more in depth when we look at the DraftKings odds a little bit later on.
We're going to win you some money. There's no doubt about it. We're going to win you some money tonight.
There's some money to be had. First, though, let us toast to the man, the myth, the legend. He's not quite there, but he's certainly the man, the pitcher, who did an extraordinary job last night, Austin Gomber. I toast my Breck brew to you on this day. Got Breck Celsius waiting as well. Got a 15-can sampler of both. I find that's a really good way to go. That way you don't have to anticipate what mood you're going to be in, what flavor you're going to need. And you've got a whole range of flavors covered, from like the berry, mountain berry and black cherry stuff and your Celsius, all the way to your Hot Peak IPA and your vanilla porter. Like, that's a range of flavors that Breckenridge is providing you. So make sure you get hooked up with all that stuff at your local King Soopers or your liquor store. And remember, you do get a bigger beer down at the DNVR bar when you become a member of the family, which you should do. You get access to all that written content. Plus, you get discounts on hats, shirts, masks, a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar. And you get a free shirt from our friends right there over at the DNVR Locker, our friend Eric Weedham. You can get your Kyle Freeland homegrown. Time to get back on. They're still in stock. We'll get you free one of those, and we'll get you a free holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness, HOLISTIK, wellness.com. Check them out. Tons of positive reviews. We'll get you a free 10 milligram stick of CBD. Then after that, use promo code DNVR30. You'll get 30% off there. But do become a member of the family today. All kinds of fun stuff. As Patrick said, talking in the Discord channel today, these are the kinds of days when it's great to be a member of the family. You don't have to wait for the show at 4 o'clock or for whenever the podcast comes out or for whenever we get around to writing the article or whatever. You can jump in the Discord talking about it all day. Who's doing what? And who's doing what is your dude, Makayla. Austin Gomber had the chance for the complete game. Couldn't go the distance. I like that Buddy sent him back out there, but what a performance.
Unreal. His best performance this season to date, no questions asked. He looked explosive on the mound. I think this was the first game where I saw Austin really attacking the strike zone. And, his 4-pitch mix was incredible. And like that off-speed stuff and his change of pace and the use of the changeup, I think just sold that performance. He looked so good out there. I mean, obviously the line kind of speaks for itself. 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. He just looked so good. And he looked so confident. And that's really what you want to see from someone like Austin, who is new to the team, just kind of getting integrated with this roster. But he looked so good out there. I mean, like I said, it was really the first time that I think I saw him have that confidence. It looked like on the mound, and the way that he was attacking that strike zone, his 4-pitch mix was just lights out. The use of the changeup and like the off-speed stuff really, I mean, he kept batters guessing all night long. They didn't know what was coming next, and I think that really worked to his advantage. But, I think, Austin has been playing this season, not necessarily with like a chip on his shoulder, but with something to prove, right? You were traded, you were the main piece in a trade for the best third baseman in baseball. So you feel like you need to prove not only to yourself, but to the fans of this organization that you just joined that the trade was not a wash, which we all kind of had a feeling it was to begin with. So he already came in at a disadvantage when he joined this team. And, I think there's like a certain weight on his shoulders. And he even said it last night in his post-game press conference. He's kind of at this point in the season where he can either prove all the doubters right, where, he just turns out to be kind of like an okay pitcher that, doesn't really last long in the Major League Baseball world, or he can be someone that really makes a difference and really impacts his team. And I think obviously that's what we all want to see. But for him too, I think that performance, kind of showed the ladder where he can be that lights out pitcher, that potential future ace one day. And it was so cool to watch. I love watching that kid pitch. I think he's so talented. And finally getting that performance out of him where he just looked so comfortable up there on the mound was really cool to see.
And I think he also, has to prove that he's a starter, which I think he has proven that. But, he's using the bullpen for the shortened season last year by the Cardinals. So there's even that element going on for him. And of course, when you have a wicked hammer like he does, where do you want to, where are you forced to pitch? Colorado, you're like, really? Man, are the odds stacked against me right now. But yeah, no, he's been fantastic. And, I did get texts at the beginning of the game, like, who's Austin Gomber? And well, all right, he was kind of the major league piece of the Nolan deal. And now there's a lot of people on the East Coast that are kind of fans of DeGrom, Austin DeGrom, because yeah, he was fantastic. Went into the 9th, only gave up really the homer to McMahon late, which I think was in the 7th. Pinch hit homer against Brandon Drury. And because of that, fun little fact is he was the first Rockies starter to work into the ninth despite allowing multiple homers since Aaron Cook in 2005, which coincidentally was also against the Mets, and coincidentally was Mike Piazza's final game as a New York Met player on October 2nd, 2005. So again, doing some things that you don't frequently see from Rockies starters there. So I think it's just fantastic for him to build on, which he continues to do this season. And again, it throws the gauntlet down to the rest of the starting rotation to say, hey, this isn't just the John Gray show, or, oh, Herman Marquez is the best pitcher. He doesn't look like it. So here's my entry into the fray there as far as the best starter. And so I love how these guys keep going back and forth like the way they've been so far for the past 2 months.
Yeah, and another thing too I wanted to point out was the fact that he didn't walk a single batter, not one. He had 0 walks that night, which is incredible for the Rockies because I fondly call them the Colorado Rockies. Yeah. So to see, no one get on base from a walk was really cool too. And I think that's something that he should also be proud of because he also was one of those pitchers that was issuing quite a few walks early on in the season. So he seemed to, I don't know what was working for him last. Well, I do know it was working for him last night, but it was just.
I was going to say you said it all earlier. Yeah. The 4-pitch mix and the attacking the zone.
It was great to see no one get on base because of a walk, basically.
No free passes.
Yeah. The first pitcher I think the first Rockies pitcher to not issue a walk so far in a game.
Certainly to go that far. I was going to say there are probably some shorter outings, but yeah, you said earlier, his best start of the season. It's right up there with the Rockies' best starts of the season. You look at the line at the end; he did give up the 2 runs, and so you've got, Senzatella went 7 or 8 shutout innings, I think, at one point. So you go, okay, but I'm with you here because the thing that was great about this, he did it on the road, as we've talked about in the Rockies issues there. He was remarkably efficient in terms of his pitch count. Was at like 67 in the 7th inning, going into the 7th inning, something like that. Not walking guys, still getting a season high in strikeouts while being efficient. And the home run to James McCann was a good pitch. I mean, that was a slider down at his back foot that I think dude just was guessing slider. You have to tip your cap in that spot. Got a little bit more of the plate than you want. You probably want to bury that at the back foot a little bit, but that's a good pitch. It wasn't like he hung one over the middle of the plate or put a fastball right down the middle. James McCann's a good power hitter. You tip your cap on that. He did start to lose it there in the 9th. And so I think on both instances, Buddy made the right call because I was like, look, do we need to get the bullpen involved in this? Is that really what we need to do today?
Look what happens when they don't get involved. They win a game.
I liked him sending him back out there for the 9th, and I wasn't sure he would. And gave him the opportunity, but then he just clearly didn't have the same bite on the stuff. Gives up the home run, then the base hit, and you go, okay, you had your chance. Maybe you'll get another one. But let's go ahead. We also got to find out something about our bullpen, and they maybe found out a little bit of something about the returning Carlos Estevez.
He was fantastic. He, is trying to stake his claim in the closer's role a little bit, and I'm fine right now. We talked about it again in the post game on Sunday.
It's kind of
this idea of like, keep Bardo in the 9th, whatever. It's kind of safe. Again, I know you want to win those games if they're winnable, but at the same time, protecting some of those younger guys. Estevez is the one guy that you can look to and say, look, he's already done this before. You're not going to ruin him if things go sideways, and they still have a lot to gain, right? They have even more to gain with Estevez as the closer and dangling him as a potential trade chip than a Daniel Bard, who, again, still is under control for next season, 22. So is Carlos Estevez. They're both, free agents, as crazy as it seems that Estevez becomes a free agent at like 29, 30, whereas Bard becomes a free agent at 36 years old, 37. Right. So again, teams are going to be a lot more interested in a Carlos Estevez as a trade chip if the Rockies go, hey, you know what? He's not going to be around much longer anyway. We don't necessarily, feel the need to extend him because, even if you sign a guy that's homegrown from your bullpen, it's not going to be at a terribly discounted rate. So they've got the money to do that. But you know what? Again, if they're just thinking, look, let's try to get this rebuild on track, Whether or not they use that or not, they still need to, improve the overall position of the franchise and the organization and their depth to some of these younger players. So Estevez could, provide him that opportunity if they decide to make a switch, or they just kind of, mix and match and say, you know what, it's going to be Estevez one day, it's going to be Bard the next. It's all good. Again, they can play off of each other, and it doesn't become all on Daniel Bard's shoulders as it's been for, the last year essentially.
Yeah, I mean, Estevez did pretty much exactly what you needed a closer to do. He came in and he had to face the top of the lineup. That's a tough spot to be put in, especially with the game on the line. And it was only his second game back from coming back from the injured list. So, there was a lot of factors that were seemingly working against him when he came into that ball game, and he did exactly what the Rockies needed him to do. And that's like a confidence booster for a reliever. When you're put in those high leverage situations, if you can deliver on that, that's like a building block for every performance in the future. So I hope he feels good about it, because that was so great to watch. I really didn't pin him coming into the season as someone who could be put in those types of situations and do what he did last night. I was just kind of banking on Bard, maybe even Oberg, to be that guy. So, to see him do that was really cool. And, if he can be another bright spot in the bullpen, the Rockies need one. So
you mean a bright spot, be the bright spot in the bullpen?
Exactly. So it's really great to watch, especially because I'll admit it, I kind of discounted him at the beginning of the season. I was like, if there's going to be a battle for the closer position, it's going to be between Bard and Oberg, before Oberg got hurt, obviously. So it was awesome to see for him. And you just want to see more of that type of stuff, especially in high leverage situations like that, because it also builds confidence in us too. When they give him the call and he's come running out of the bullpen, we're not going to be like, oh no. It's going to be more like, okay, we can trust this guy to get the job done. It doesn't matter if he's facing the top of the order or the bottom of the order. Like, he's still going to be able to go in there and get the out and save situations. So it was really cool to watch.
With the volatility of bullpens in general, to hear someone's warming up in the bullpen, you tense up a little bit.
Yeah.
But then here's Estevez, you go, okay, it could be worse. It could be worse. Yeah. I hope we can continue it, because again, these relievers, there's so many ebbs and flows.
Right.
But right now, Estevez, he's flowing, man. He's looking good in his 2 outings.
Yeah, he's been one of those few guys that when he's healthy, he can actually dominate out of the Rockies bullpen. And that was the other thing that was different about it. He didn't just come in and, get a couple of rollovers or, a line out here or there. Guys couldn't touch him. Like, he just came in and was throwing absolute gas. And so when he's on, he has closer type of stuff. It's just he's had those times, especially when he's dealing with injuries, he's trying to fight through, where he just starts leaving stuff right over the plate. The 99-mile-an-hour fastball becomes 96 with no movement right in the middle. That's very hittable for major league guys. But whether it's similar with Bard and Givens. Then Estevez, those got kind of that John Gray thing about him, where you're like, one of the very few guys who's actually figured out Coors Field a little bit. So whether you're dangling him or you want to make him a part of your future because he is young enough, you just got to see him healthy and you just got to see him out there. And so I agree. I'd go back and forth at this point between Bard and Estevez in terms of closing opportunities. Whether you plan to trade both of them or neither of them or not, you should trade Bard if he turns it around. Really trade Bard if he turns it around. Yeah, it looks like, Joe, we just sort of got into that one. Before we move on from game one, we also had early in the set, the offense to talk about, early in the game, I should say, Ryan McMahon and Elias Diaz getting the big home runs to put the Rockies on top. And then Garrett Hampson with a triple. And it was basically those 3 extra base hits that were the game winners for the Rockies in that one, in the 3-2 win. But McMahon, we've talked about his streakiness, and he had been on a little bit of a cold one there for a while. Now, the last couple of games, a couple big long homers. I've made the cargo comps. I'm calling it right now. Big road trip for Ryan McMahon.
It's been very good. I'm looking forward to see what he does against some lesser pitching in Pittsburgh against those Pirates. He's had that hot start, cooled down, and has leveled off, and he just, again, almost is quietly now amongst the league leaders in home runs. And
right.
And again, other teams are noticing that and are pitching him carefully, because there's not too much lineup protection. And again, Fuentes and Daza hitting behind him at various moments, or even Crone at times you go, you take your chances. You don't want Ryan McMahon to beat you. He's become that guy for the Rockies right now because, if Story and or Blackman are getting on base, it's going to be up to McMahon to kind of drive them home, right? Or to get the bottom half of the lineup started and by getting on base. And so, McMahon's been that guy. We were talking in the press box over the weekend, like who's going to represent the Rockies in the All-Star game. And while we still have a long ways to go, Ryan McMahon has probably put himself out there to be that guy. Don't put it past, Charlie Blackman, because he's a name. Trevor Story is a name, and that comes with, a built-in set of votes to a degree, right? But they've been very quiet for the most part. And so I think right now you got to like the idea of Ryan McMahon being the next guy of power hitting, infielders in this organization. It's great to see him do what he's been able to do this year and do it last night, and to think, man, can he do it off Jacob deGrom today? That's the excitement, is to see, again, is another notch in the belt for some of these young guys, and particularly McMahon with his home runs now already up to 12 here in not even at the third way pole of the season.
I think that's what the season was going to be set up to be, though, right? I mean,
right.
Start off the season with losing one of the most notorious players that have ever been a part of your organization, but also happen to, kind of naturally through his talent, have all the attention focused on him and his performance, which, like, of course, that's going to happen when you have someone of Nolan's caliber on your roster. But now that attention has kind of traveled with him to another team, you're going to have these, kids that are coming up that are really talented in their own ways, that are going to have opportunities to prove themselves. And with, all the intention in the world to put on someone else, you're finally going to be able to focus on some of these other kids that you maybe wouldn't have focused on in the past, because if you have someone, like I said, Nolan on your team, that's naturally where all the attention is going to go to. So I feel like that's what this season was kind of intended for, was like more of a just go out there and show what you can do and have fun while you're doing it type of season. And so to watch, Ryan Mac deliver on that type of stuff is really cool to see, just because I don't think if Nolan would still be on this team, we would be talking about that right now, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true for some of the guys. It's always hard to go back and say, how exactly would things be playing out if Nolan was still here. There, especially when it comes to the clubhouse dynamics, which were a very interesting, weird thing going on, especially in 2020. But, you never know what it takes for certain guys to bloom. And it's one of the reasons why I always chuckle so hard when I'm arguing for the electronic strike zone and somebody says to me, Drew, I love the human element of the game. And I go, baseball doesn't have enough of the human. This is the human element of the game. This is the thing we can't measure. There's a line I don't especially love. I can't remember. This might have been Dusty Baker recently saying, one thing that sabermetrics don't tell you is how to get better. I think that's a slight oversimplification. I think you can use sabermetrics to help tell you how to get better. But I do think there's something in the, we live in this age where we look at the guy's numbers and we really feel like we understand exactly who a player is. And we forget that that's the human element. Guys change, guys grow. And is it because they're given more of an opportunity? Is it because there's less pressure to win because the team isn't good, or because the superstar player isn't yelling at you when you're doing bad? Or is there, there's a million different things that go into why some guys bloom and why some guys shrink, and when it happens and when it doesn't. And I find that to be incredibly fascinating. And it's something that I don't think anybody, there's no one metric for. There's no answer to that question. So I don't know. It'll be something we can ask ourselves forever. What might have Ryan McMahon been especially with a team that say had both DJ and Nolan on it? If you keep both of those players, who is Ryan McMahon ever allowed to become? Very interesting questions. The comments here going off about Joshua. That's right. We probably dropped a few Joshes. Or have we brought up
Joshua Fuentes?
Joshua Fuentes.
So. I don't think we've talked about Joshua.
Where do what? So okay, all right. No, that's fine. Yeah.
It's strange. The only thing if that's what he wants to go by, that's what he wants to go by. Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever heard of Joshua being spoken about, people have called him by his nickname, so to speak. But if he goes by Joshua, he's Joshua. So
yeah,
no problem with it.
I just thought this is one of those. Oh, all right.
Duly noted. What another thing that was interesting, I was talking with someone about Germán Marquez. We were talking about accents on players' names and particularly Spanish players' names and how they're often kind of neglected, right? Not forgotten, neglected, because if your name Dom Nunez, the second letter of his name isn't just a regular old generic English N.
Right.
It's got the tilde on top, and that's how it should be written. Germán Marquez has an accent on the A in Herman for the first time ever. Like that just came out of nowhere this off season, and
they added that.
And in a way, it's stuff like that saddens me from the perspective of I wish it was easier for guys and players or people to just say, look, this is who I am. This is what, and it doesn't have to be a whole, not saga, but I just maybe wish there was more consideration. Like if you look at Roberto Clemente, his first baseball card says Bob Clemente because that was what the people in charge said. Well, you're not Roberto. You have to be Bob. He was never Bob. And yet the people making the decisions kind of said, went with that and didn't have the consideration. And so I think, we need a little bit more of that as society, is just to not assume to give people certain nicknames and to shorten their names. So good on Joshua for being Joshua.
Good on Joshua. No, it's like we talked about when Dick Allen passed away and people insisting on calling him Richie. And he was, please don't do that, and really made a thing of it. And, call people what they want to be called. But I think it's cool that he feels it wasn't really until like year 3 or 4 that Nolan came out and said it is technically pronounced Arenado. If you say Arenado, I'm not going to correct you. But now that have 4 gold gloves, it's like it is fun. I remember a few of those. Amari Stoudemire, remember him from the Suns and then the Knicks back in the day. Went like 7 years before he corrected people. There's an apostrophe in my name. It's Amar apostrophe A, Amari. And just hadn't been doing it for
Giancarlo Stanton.
Was
Mike Stanton for a while.
Mike. So weird.
People are still figuring out how to pronounce Nikola Jokic's name.
Same. I am not, however, learning how to pronounce Hassel Cattle Company. I've got that one down because they basically make up 50% of my diet at this point, and they should make up a certain percentage of your diet as well. Wagyu beef from Hassel Cattle Company, absolutely delicious. Could change your life. It's really, really scrumptious. They win awards for this stuff, and the other cool thing is that they don't have any of the antibiotics and hormones and some of the garbage that they put into the animals that finds its way into your body if you're buying from the grocery store. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be better for you. And it's going to taste better, which for most of us, let's be honest, is the most important thing. Well, you're lucky there because this stuff, absolutely delicious. Got some ground beef waiting for me right now. Not exactly sure what we're doing with that tonight. Maybe some chili, maybe some stroganoff. Got some plenty of options with the ground beef. Ground chuck can do that as well. Bacon can do the breakfast anytime. I'm a big breakfast for dinner kind of guy as well. So we got like 5 pounds of bacon hanging out in the freezer right now. Got a couple of steaks. Got some Denver steaks, some flake steaks, award-winning hamburgers. Check them out at HASSELL cattlecompany.com. They can even hook you up with some barbecue rubs, some steak spices, some everything that you need to go with it, man. Use promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off. And if you order over $200, you get free shipping. Again, that's at HASSELL cattlecompany.com.
Okay. This is totally going to derail the conversation, but I think it needs to be talked about. Somebody just tagged me in the lineup of the new MLB New Era local market hats.
Oh, Will was talking about these at the beginning of the show. I haven't seen them.
They're not great.
They're awful. Who made these?
I haven't seen it.
They're very 1999 Fred Durst coming out.
Rockies one.
Limp Bizkit. Way too much happening. Way too much
happening. This gives me like, the meme where it's like graphic design is my passion and it's like Comic Sans font. This is what that gives me. It's so bad. It's like a collage on a hat, and it's not a cute collage.
Will said it looks like someone made them with a Windows 95 clip art.
It's so
That right?
horrendous. These are horrible. I'm looking
What
at
is
all of them like none of these are good. I can't
They
even
are-
tell what half of the icons on these hats are.
They are the epitome of chuggy. They're very chuggy, very bit too much going on.
I don't
Trying
even know
far
if I
too
would
much.
call this chuggy. I would just think,
Oh, they're chuggy.
this is
Okay,
just
Ken.
not
All right,
good.
I'm now I am the old man in the conversation.
Yes.
What is a chuggy?
Well,
It's
not
a
chuggy.
term that like
Yes.
it's for millennials that are like just in love with things that are very out of date.
Oh, okay.
It's like the opposite of trendy.
Yeah.
It's trying too hard.
Okay.
Like they're obsessed
These
with
hats
things
are trying
that
too
just,
hard.
like, are not cute. Like chevron print and that one font that's like super loopy that everyone just does on all of their calligraphy stuff. Like just really not
And anything
Okay.
supreme. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
it.
Got you. Yeah,
Very
Justin. If we had a DNVR version of one of those hats, you'd have to throw the Strava coffee and the Breck Brew logos on there.
The Breck Brew logo would definitely be on there. That would be
Feature
a good one to have.
prominently.
I'm trying to think what else would be on there. Bruce Springsteen.
You know what these hats look like? The hats almost look like the cap embodiment of Croc sandals.
Yes.
When
and
they
the
would
little gibbets
sell the
that you
little
add on the
gems and
Crocs.
baubles that you would add.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, what kind of weird, what kind of things do you want on your Rockies cap? All right, a Breck Brew logo. And again, there's nothing wrong with these things on their own, but then if you just slap them all on together, it's really strange.
It's so bad. There's just like all these little icons on the hat. And I'm just like, what is happening? This is so awful. This is so busy.
For anyone that's been to the Jersey Shore, and there's probably places like this all around the country, but there would be these stands where you would go and maybe get a T-shirt, or you get like a swishy, running jacket or windbreaker, and they would just get a hot iron press and they would put like a logo on it. They put a Nike swoosh.
Right.
You'd be like, I'll take one of those logos. I'll take one of those. Give me a 303. Give me a 720 on the arm patch. All right, give me the Colorado State flag, and you just were to press all of those different things on one jacket and be like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah.
That's what those hats are. And you know
This is
what?
what I am.
Anyone listening to this who bought that hat, awesome.
The best part of it is the
You.
Mets and
Call
the
me.
Yankees hat are exactly the same.
Does that have a slice of pizza? Yeah, if we had to guess, there should be a slice of
Pizza wrap.
somewhere.
The Mets and the Yankees hat are exactly.
Subway train?
Oh man.
From what I can tell, it's the Statue of Liberty, an apple, and then the area
Switchblade.
codes that are like in that area. So the area codes are different, but it's the same design.
Taxi cab?
It's the apple that does it for me.
Oh God, it's so bad. Okay, sorry. I just had to talk about how horrible those hats are because
Correct.
They're pretty wild.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. All right, let's get into the portion of our show that is brought to you by our phenomenal friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to make you a little bit of money right now, so get ready. Open up your virtual wallets in your mind pockets because we about to get it going. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and start betting on baseball, but also the NFL. What? No, Drew, they stopped. They did that. They played the Super Bowl.
NFT?
It ended. And NRL and NRI. No, that's a different thing.
What is happening right now? Are you okay? You sound like you're having a stroke.
Oh my God, what happened? He's broken. NHL, that's where they play the hockey. And NBA, that's where they play the basketball. You can bet on all of those things on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And right now, you've got a chance to turn $5 into $200 just by picking a team to win a basketball game. That's all you got to do. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR when you sign up to turn $5 into $200 in free credits. Just bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game. And if they do, you can claim $200 in free credits. It's promo code DNVR for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Wager paid out. In-site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
We got to win some people some money so they can buy these hats. just to have them.
Just to save up
because this will very clearly be a single run print. There will not be, you'll not be able to get
into the DNVR bar with one of
these.
those hats, I'm going to make fun of you. I just want you to know that.
No.
So if you're into that,
yeah, yeah, right, totally.
which some guys are, let's
totally
face it.
You just, so
you know what hat to get.
Oh my God, someone just made this into a meme and tagged me in it. Same energy. Literally, that is so good.
That's so bad.
Very much so.
All right, I'm done with the hats. Let's make people some.
The most interesting thing that I found with these lines on DraftKings is you cannot bet on RBI or starting pitcher strikeouts.
Oh, interesting.
And I go, because no one's going to score a run? Or it's hard to know how many?
What's the over-under for the game? 6.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
That's a good starting point. So, all right, so Jacob deGrom.
Why do you say no way, though? I feel like because you think it's too high?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to say, there's no way that they hit over 6.5 runs.
Right, yeah, under. I also have under.
Yeah, under.
Because, I mean, so Jacob deGrom can only give up 0 runs, not negative. If that were the case, well, now that's a gimme under. But as it were, I mean, you go, even if, Freeland has an okay start, it's his first one back, but he said today Freeland's going to be around 90 pitches, give or take. I think Luis Rojas has been instructed that there's no pitch or inning limit tonight for deGrom. It's just he's going to go out and do the thing. But you got to say, all right, even if Freeland is okay, 5 innings pitched, 90, 95 pitches thrown, even if he gives up 4 runs, the bullpen gives up 2 over the final 4. Again, this Mets lineup is very depleted.
This is the bullpen's very capable of giving up more, but and it's a pitcher's
not a good
park.
lineup.
The Rockies seem to be hitting like the right times for teams that are like injured.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the safer bets on the day.
The under.
Just take the under on that.
Yeah.
I mean, unless all hell breaks loose and it freezes over and deGrom gives up like 8 runs and Kyle's debut just goes so bad. But I just don't see that happening. So,
but again, if that happens, no one can hold us personally responsible for that. Right? If hell literally freezes over tonight, then people are gonna have bigger problems. Then
my way of thinking and my rationale sometimes is in moments like this to bet against my team, to bet against what I want to happen because.
Oh, emotional hedge.
It does happen. If it does happen, cha-ching. If it doesn't happen, go my team. So you can play both sides of the fence on that. deGrom in his last 5 starts against the Rockies. Now, granted, this he faces them once a year essentially. So this goes back to 2016. He's 3-1 in his 35 innings pitched. He has struck out 48 batters and has a 1.03 ERA. He's only given up 1 home run, and that was the one earlier this year, believe it or not. Ryan Tapia. So he's given up 1 home run in his last 5 starts against the Rockies. So, and again, you go, the Rockies aren't very good this year. We're talking about in 2017, 8 innings, 1 earned run. That was a postseason club. 2018, 8 innings, only gave up 1 earned run. That was a postseason club. And in 2019, in June, when he faced them at Citi FIeld, the Rockies were they were right in the wild card race. They weren't not a postseason team at that point. Eventually, they became that. 6 innings, 2 earned runs. So I mean, a lot of this has come during the time in which the Rockies have been good. So I don't know how dominant he's going to be tonight. It's his first start back. He's going to want to be dominant. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's going to want to be. It's interesting that they don't have an over/under for strikeouts for him tonight because it's because you could see him being totally dominant and going out and striking out 15. But you could also see there being just a little bit of rust first game back for either of these guys. Slightly more hittable. Ryan Tapia hits a home run off of him again because, of course, why wouldn't that happen?
I feel like and Tapia's leading off, so I feel like they're just going to open the ball game and Tapia's just going to go yard, and that's just
let's go. Let's go.
But also Matt makes a great point in the comments. Jacob deGrom never gets run support when he pitches ever.
Right.
So I don't know. I also don't understand why the total run line is set at 6.5 because nobody can hit when deGrom is on the mound.
Right. It's that's going to be
shuts down both offenses. Well, if we're talking home runs and we look at some of the home run lines, If you want to get excited and you want to dream a little bit, the guy that I would pick on DraftKings right now would be Dom Nunez as a yes. It's plus 700, and one of the reasons why I would do that is twofold. So he has faced him twice. So back in April, he did hit a triple against him, so he's 1 for 2. Okay, cool. But everyone else in the Rockies lineup is atrocious. Charlie Blackmon has a 401 OPS against deGrom in 23 at bats. He's 3 for 22 against them, and as bad as that is, and again, no shame in that because we're talking about Jacob deGrom, but as bad as that's been, Trevor Story's been even worse in 17 at bats, 364 OPS. He's 2 for 16 off him, 1 double. So I would bet against those guys homering. You're not going to win any money on it. Both of those, if you go and bet with your money, vote with your money, and you say no home runs on both those guys, it's minus 1,000. So you got to put up a lot, and you don't win a lot. So it might not be, certainly not worth it. Nunez is probably the better bet where you're going to feel good if that does come out.
We need to talk to whoever sets the lines at DraftKings because they don't have Raimel Tapia on either line to hit a home run.
I've actually noticed that you can't get him on total hits anymore. You haven't been able to get Tapia on total hits for a couple of weeks.
Give us our crab
They're
team
probably
back. What is
the
happening?
only national people like that. That's one of the things we should talk about this a little more often with our friends at DraftKings. But like national media is one thing, and we talk about the Coors Field bias and like people not giving guys credit or whatever. But you want to really see what getting credit looks like. Go on the DraftKings Sportsbook app and find out what they will or won't give you. And when
we want El Cangrejo lines.
I don't think
us.
I don't. What was I forget what word you just used there, but I disagree with your take on that, Drew, because I think it's like Coors Field breaks national media. Raimel Tapia has broken DraftKings because they don't know what to do, right? He doesn't fit into the mold, right? Like it's not so much that they're discounting him because they see him in the lineup.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They don't know how to contextualize.
They're almost respecting him, right? It's DraftKings is respecting him by saying like we can't because you can't throw on there. You could do the over/under for him to get a hit and a half. That's what would make it interesting for Tapia each time. Because most times you go under, you can bet against for a guy to get a hit or against him to get a single hit. But Tapia getting a hit is right now in any individual game, and that's what's so weird about it. Because you can look, other guys have batting averages in any individual at bat. Mike Trout probably has a better chance of getting a hit. A lot of guys in any individual at bat, but in any individual game. Raimel Tapia might have the best chance of getting a hit as anyone in baseball right now. It's just like, I don't know what to do. So that's kind of funny.
Do we see the Rockies winning tonight?
All right.
Rip the Band-Aid off right away, huh?
Let me just explain where I'm coming from with this, right? I think the Rockies have an advantage going into tonight's game because they've already seen deGrom so far this season. So they've been in the box. They've gotten to see some of his pitches. They know kind of what to expect because they've already faced him earlier this year. The Mets, they haven't seen K-Free yet. And if Kyle Freeland has his stuff and he's on it, it's going to take them, 3 times through the order before they can start figuring out what to expect from Kyle Freeland. Obviously, if he doesn't have his stuff and he's not pitching his A game, they'll be able to figure that out pretty quickly. But I think it all hinges on if Kyle Freeland has his A stuff tonight, because if he does, I think it's going to take them till the 3rd or 4th time through the lineup to figure out what he's going to pitch. And the Rockies have the advantage with already have seen deGrom so far this season. So I kind of feel like the Rockies have a bit of an advantage in this matchup. I know some people might think I'm insane because it's Jacob deGrom on the hill, but I don't know. I'm kind of feeling good about the Rockies, and I'm excited for Kyle Freeland's debut. I think if he hadn't have done so well in AAA, I would be a little bit more nervous. But even his starts with the Isotopes look so good. So I don't know. I'm feeling a little like the Rockies might win this one, which is a little crazy to say because deGrom's on the hill. But
Freeland has only faced the Mets twice. Pitched fantastic in both those starts. They did come in 2018, once at home, once at Citi. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and because of that, and partially because of the Mets roster in complete shambles, there's only 4 guys that have even faced Freeland. So there will be that element of surprise. Francisco Lindor, 3 at-bats against him. Jonathan VR, that's the guy. If we're talking about taking the over on hits, definitely want to take the over on that. Over on 0.5. It's the line is minus 155, and that's because he's gone 6 for 7. Excuse me, 5 for 6 against Freeland with a homer, and also he did walk in an at bat. So that's really the one guy. But like you said, Makayla, like that little element of surprise, they're not as familiar with him. Guys, even if you're talking about the best pitcher in the world, guys would rather face someone like him than a lesser known pitcher that they just have never seen before. So there is that comfort there. And again, Mets don't get deGrom run support. We know that. So it isn't out of the realm of possibility that the Rockies win. I'm taking the Mets, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Look, I want to win people some money. So
how do you just logically talk about that entire situation and then be like, but I'm going to take the Mets?
I could see those things happen. I just don't think it actually will.
So Patrick with the old school emotional hedge, as they call it on DNVR bets. Makayla taking the Rocks is a possibility, and I think they'll win you a little extra money too. They're slight underdogs in this one. I think you can also take them to win by a run and a half. I don't know that I'd do all that because again, I think this is going to be a close one. I also think where you're
on the money line, so
on the money line, yeah. So where I think where you get in trouble with Makayla's prediction is if one of these two pitchers is going to have their night go sideways, it's probably going to be K-Free.
Yeah.
deGrom's not going to get lit up. He just doesn't. That just doesn't happen to him. It's been years since he had a really terrible outing. If Free went out there and just didn't have it, went 4 innings, gave up 4 or 5 runs, and Buddy had to pull him out, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not expecting that, but I wouldn't be shocked, right? Like he's still got to get himself fully back. He's got a lot to prove. There's a lot coming in. But we also know that him at his best, he's been great. He was much better in 2020. He was outstanding in 2018. And I think we'll know by the second inning if we're going to get good K-Free. And if we are, then I think we're looking at a 0-0 or 1-0 game going into the 7th. And it'll be in the hands of these two very capable bullpens.
Quote unquote. Yeah, I think, and Makayla, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think Freeland is kind of he's the guy that's going to shift the game, whether it's going to be the Mets running away with it, relatively speaking. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, even in the worst case scenario. Or it's the Rockies hanging in there enough, and with the Mets' lack of run support for deGrom, and it's because Freeland's pitching really well. So
I will say all of my
catalyst
is on if Kyle Freeland can pitch his A stuff.
Right.
It's all contingent on that. Okay, I'm not being unrealistic here. I realize who they're facing on the mound. I'm not stupid. He has like a 0.6 ERA. Okay, he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. Sorry, I don't care what anyone else says. He's the best pitcher in baseball right now. So I'm very aware of what's happening and who we're up against. But I do think the Rockies do have a chance to win if Kyle Freeland has his best stuff on the mound tonight.
And I like this lineup too. The Rockies have Tapia, Story, Blackman, Cron batting cleanup, McMahon, Brendan Rodgers back in lineup at second base, Garrett Hampson in center.
By the way,
Dom Nunez, Kyle Freeland. So another line too that I like is if you go, all right, McMahon homers and the Rocks win, that's plus 1,600. And if that happens, even if that doesn't happen, CJ Cron, you can actually bet on the run line, or not the run line, but runs, a player who scores a run. CJ Cron to score a run or more, plus 220. So again, with McMahon hitting behind him,
he takes that walk. He's been walking all season. Yeah,
that's it. A walk and a double by McMahon. You got your run. You get your plus 220.
It's gonna be a good game, everyone.
I think so. And I'm also really curious about what Patrick was talking about earlier, that the Rockies, oddly enough, have handled Jacob deGrom as well as any team the last couple of years. While we know those runs weren't earned, Dom Nunez hitting one off the top of the wall against him, Ryan Tapia taking him deep, a couple other very confident bats. He read off the numbers. Charlie Blackman and Trevor Story either are about to eat it again or are very due for a hit against this guy. But specifically those young hitters like Tapia, McMahon, Nunez, see what Hampson can do a little bit. I'll be very curious if they go in confident because they kind of got to him last time. And they don't feel like, oh, man, there's nothing we can do. They feel like, oh, if we take our guesses and we make our swings, we know we can beat this guy. Because while Rockies ended up losing that game, they
almost beat him last time.
They had him, and they know it, and he knows it, which also worries the crap out of me.
It wasn't like they got blown out of the water the last time they faced DeGrom. It was a really good game.
They should have won that game. They got blown by Daniel Bard. They should have won that game. Putting 3 runs. Again, I know they were unearned, but they sure felt earned.
Rockies earned them. DeGrom didn't earn them. That's fine.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if they win tonight, they're guaranteed to not lose a road series, which I think would also be a first this year. It'd be their first time not losing a road series.
Yeah.
They didn't win it, but they also didn't lose it, which is still a big
victory.
Take
this one, you got a great chance to win the series. I think they're splitting the set one way or another. But if you win this one, it's like, hey, now you just have to win a baseball game against not Jacob deGrom, which seems easier, doesn't it?
It's a much easier task to undertake.
On a roll, baby. 4 in a row. That's basically like a 12-game winning streak for this team. That's how it feels, right? So it should be a wildly entertaining game, and we're going to go watch it now. So thank you all for hanging out with us for this episode of the show. Make sure you are joining us for these lives. I see all you hanging out in the YouTube with the comments, making this show a very special, fantastic one today. We appreciate each and every one of you in the comment section. As we said before, make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com for all the written content and all the discounts and all the stuff that comes with that. You're following everyone on social media at Drew Creasman, at Patrick D. Lyons, at Makayla E. Perkins, and of course, at DNVR_Rockies. Follow everyone on all the social medias, especially TikTok. The TikTok has been a whole lot of fun content on there.
We got a fire TikTok dropping in like an hour, so you're gonna want to go watch it. It's so good.
See, now I'm all hyped for it. So
get
it on, enjoy it, follow along, cheer on your Avs and your Nuggets, and don't forget about your Colorado Rockies. We know you never would. It's going to be a fun road trip. It looks like this is going to be a fantastic baseball game. Watch it all with us. Join us for the series wrap up afterwards. Thank you all for being absolutely awesome out there. We'll continue being absolutely Patrick Lyons, Makayla Perkins, and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.